Chapter 40, Freemasonic Symbolism. There's no pictures in this one because you deserve no pictures. In several early Masonic manuscripts, for example, the Hilarion Sloane Lansdowne and Edinburgh Kilwing, it is stated that the craft of initiated builders existed before the deluge and that its members were employed in the building of the Tower of Babel. A Masonic constitution dated 1701 gives the following naive account of the origin of the sciences, arts, and crafts from which the major part of Masonic symbolism is derived. How is the worldly science? How this worthy science was first begun, I shall tell. Before Noah's flood, there was a man called Lamech, as it is written in the 4th chapter of Genesis, and the Lamech had 2 wives. The one was called Ada, and the other Zillah. By the first wife, Ada, he got 2 sons, the one called Jabal and the other Jabal. And by the other wife, Zillah, he got a son and daughter. And the 4 children found the beginning of all crafts in the world. This Jabal was the elder son, and he found the craft of geometry, and he parted flocks as of sheep and lambs in the fields, and first wrought houses of stones and tree. And it is noted in the chap aforesaid, as his brother Jabal found the craft of music, of songs, organs, and harp. The 3rd brother, Tubal-Cain, found out smith's craft to work iron and steel, and their sister Nama found out the art of weaving. These children did not know that God would take vengeance for sin either by fire or water. Therefore they wrote these sciences which they had found into pillars of stone, that they might be found after the flood. The one stone was called marble, cannot burn with fire, and the other was called laterus, brass, that cannot drown in water. The author of this constitution thereupon declares that one of these pillars was later discovered by Hermes, who communicated to mankind the secrets thereon inscribed. In his Antiquities of the Jews, Josephus writes that Adam had forewarned his descendants that sinful humanity would be destroyed by a deluge. In order to preserve their science and philosophy, the children of Seth therefore raised 2 pillars, one of brick and the other of stone, on which were inscribed the keys to their knowledge. The patriarch Enoch, whose name means the initiator, is evidently a personification of the sun, since he lived 365 years. He also constructed an underground temple consisting of 9 vaults, one breadth the other, placing in the deepest vault a triangular tablet of gold bearing upon it the absolute and ineffable name of deity. According to some accounts, Enoch made 2 golden deltas. The larger he placed upon the white cubical altar in the lowest vault, and the smaller he gave to the keeping of his son Methuselah, who did the actual construction work of the brick chambers according to the pattern revealed to his father by the Most High. In the form and arrangement of these vaults, Enoch epitomized the 9 spheres of the ancient mysteries and the 9 sacred strata of the earth through which the initiate must pass to reach the flaming spirit dwelling in its central core. According to the Freemasonic symbolism, Enoch, fearing that all knowledge of the sacred mysteries would be lost at the time of the deluge, erected the 2 columns mentioned in the quotation. Upon the metal column, in appropriate allegorical symbols, he engraved the secret teaching, and upon the marble column placed an inscription stating that a short distance away, a priceless treasure would be discovered in a subterranean vault. After having thus faithfully completed his labors, Enoch was translated from the brow of Mount Moriah. In time, the location of the secret vaults was lost, but after the lapse of ages, there came another builder, an initiate after the order of Enoch, and he, while laying the foundations for another temple to the great architect of the universe, discovered the long-lost vaults and the secrets contained within. John Leland was appointed by King Henry VIII to go through archives of the various religious institutions dissolved by the king and remove for preservation any books or manuscripts of important character. Among the documents copied by Leland was a series of questions and answers concerning the mystery of Masonry written by King Henry VI. In answer to the question, how came Masonry into England, the document states that Peter Gower, a Grecian, traveled for knowledge in Egypt, Syria, and every land where the Phoenicians had planted Masonry, winning entrance in all lodges of Masons. He learned much and returning dwelt in Greater Greece. He became renowned for his wisdom, formed a great lodge at Groton, and made many Masons, some of whom journeyed in France, spreading Masonry there. From France, in the course of time, the order passed into England. To even the superficial student of the subject, it must be evident that the name of Peter Gower, the Grecian, is merely an anglicized form of Pythagoras. Consequently, Groton, where he formed his lodge, is easily identified with Crotona. A link is thus established between the philosophic mysteries of Greece and medieval Freemasonry. In his notes on King Henry's questions and answers, William Preston enlarges upon the vow of secrecy as it was practiced by the ancient initiates. On the authority of Pliny, he described how Anaraxus, having been imprisoned in order to extort from him some of the secrets with which he had been entrusted, bit out his own tongue and threw it in the face of Nicocreon, the tyrant of Cyprus. Preston adds that the Athenians revered a brazen statue that was represented without a tongue to denote the sanctity with which they regarded their oath-bound secrets. It is also noteworthy that, according to King Henry's manuscript, Masonry had its origin in the East and was carrier of the arts and sciences of civilization to the primitive humanity of the Western nations. Conspicuous among the symbols of Freemasonry are the 7 liberal arts and sciences. By grammar, man is taught to express in noble and adequate language his innermost thoughts and ideals. By rhetoric, he is enabled to conceal his ideals under the protecting cover of ambiguous language and figures of speech. By logic, he is trained in the organization of the intellectual faculties with which he has been endowed. By arithmetic, he not only is instructed in the mystery of universal order, but also gains the key to multitude, magnitude, and proportion. By geometry, he is inducted into the mathematics of form, the harmony and rhythm of angles, and the philosophy of organization. By music, he is reminded that the universe is founded upon the laws of celestial harmonics, and harmony and rhythm are all-pervading. By astronomy, he gains an understanding of the immensities of time and space, of the proper relationship between himself and the universe, and the awesomeness of the unknown power which is driving the countless stars of the firmament through illimitable space. Equipped with the knowledge conferred by familiarity with the liberal arts and sciences, the studious Freemason therefore finds himself confronted by few problems with which he cannot cope. The Dionysic architects, the most celebrated of the ancient fraternities of artisans, was that of the Dionysic architects. The organization was composed exclusively of initiates of the Bacchus Dionysius cult and was peculiarly consecrated to the science of building and the art of decoration, acclaimed as being the custodians of a secret and sacred knowledge of architectonics. Its members were entrusted with the design and erection of public buildings and monuments. The superlative excellence of their handiwork elevated the members of the guild to a position of surpassing dignity. They were regarded as the master craftsmen of the earth. Because of the first dances held in honor of Dionysius, he was considered the founder and patron of the theater, and Dionysians specialized in the construction of building adapted for the presentation of dramatic performances. In the circular or semicircular orchestra, they invariably erected an altar to Dionysius, and the rites of the mysteries usually formed the motive for the tragedies and comedies enacted. It is related of Aeschylus, the famous Greek poet, that while appearing in one of his own plays, he was suspected by a mob of angry spectators of revealing one of the profound secrets of the mysteries, and was forced to seek refuge at the altar of Dionysus. So carefully did the Dionysiac architects safeguard the secrets of their craft that only fragmentary records exist of their esoteric teachings. John A. Weiss thus sums up the meager data available concerning the order. They made their appearance certainly not later than 10,000 BC, and appear to have enjoyed particular privileges and immunities. They also possessed secret means of recognition and were bound together by specialties only known to themselves. The richer of this fraternity were bound to provide for their poor brethren. They were divided into communities governed by a master and wardens and called connected houses. They held a grand festival annually and were held in high esteem. Their ceremonials were regarded as sacred. It has been claimed that Solomon, at the instance of Hiram, king of Tyre, employed them at his temple and palaces. They were also employed at the construction of the temple of Diana in Ephesus. They had means of intercommunication all over the known world, and from them doubtless sprang the guilds of the traveling masons known in the Middle Ages. See the obelisk and Freemasonry. The fraternity of the Dionysic architects spread throughout all of Asia Minor, even reaching Egypt and India. They established themselves in nearly all the countries bordering on the Mediterranean, and with the rise of the Roman Empire, found their way into Central Europe and even into England. The most stately and enduring buildings in Constantinople, Rhodes, Athens, and Rome were erected by these inspired craftsmen. One of the most illustrious of their number was Vitruvius, the great architect, renowned as the author of Dialecticum. In the various sections of his book, Vitruvius gives several hints as to the philosophy underlying the Dionysiac concept of the principle of symmetry applied to the science of architecture as derived from the consideration of the proportions established by nature between the parts and members of the human body. The following extract from Vitruvius on the subject of symmetry is representative. The design of a temple depends on symmetry, the principles of which must be most carefully observed by the architect. They are due to proportion in some Greek word. Proportion is a correspondence among the measures of the members of an entire work and of the whole into a certain part selected as standard. Hold on. For the human body is so designed by nature that the face, from the chin to the top of the forehead and the lowest roots of the hair, is a tenth part of the whole height. The open hand from the wrist to the tip of the middle finger is just the same. The head from the chin to the crown is an eighth, and with the neck and shoulder from the top of the breast to the lowest roots of the hairs is a sixth. From the middle of the breast to the summit of the crown is the fourth. If we take the height of the face itself, the distance from the bottom of the chin to the underside of the nostrils, and from that point to a line between the eyebrows is the same. From there to the lowest roots of the hair is also a third, comprising forehead. The forehead. The length of the foot is 1/6 of the height of the body, of the forearm 1/4, and the breadth of the breast is also 1/4. The other members, too, have their own symmetrical proportions, and it was by employing them that the famous painters and sculptors of antiquity attained to great and endless renown. The edifice raised by the Dionysiac builders were indeed sermons in stone, though unable to comprehend fully the cosmic principles thus embodied in these masterpieces of human ingenuity and industry. Even the uninitiated were invariably overwhelmed by the sense of majesty and symmetry resulting from the perfect coordination of pillars, spans, arches, and domes. I know. By variations in the details of size, material, type, arrangement, ornamentation, and color, these inspired builders believed it possible to provoke in the nature of the onlooker certain distinct mental or emotional reactions. Vitruvius, for example, describes the disposition of bronze vases about a room so as to produce a certain definite changes in the tone and quality of the human voice. In like manner, each chamber in the mysteries through which the candidate passed has its own particular acoustics. Thus, in one chamber, the voice of the priest was amplified until his words caused the very room to vibrate, while in another the voice was diminished and softened to such a degree that it sounded like the distant tinkling of silver bells. Again, in some of the underground passageways, the candidate was apparently bereft of the power of speech, for though he should at the top of his voice not even whisper was audible to his ears. After progressing a few feet, however, he would discover that his softest sigh would be re-echoed 100 times. The supreme ambition of the dynastic architects was the construction of buildings which would create distinct impressions consistent with the purpose for which the structure itself was designed. In common with the Pythagoreans, they believed it possible by combinations of straight lines and curves to induce any desired mental attitude or emotion. They labored, therefore, to the end of producing a building perfectly harmonious with the structure of the universe itself. They may have even believed that an edifice so constructed, because it was in no respect at variance with any existing reality, would not be subjected to dissolution, but would endure throughout the span of mortal time. As a logical deduction from the philosophic trend of thought, such a building, en rapport with cosmos, would also have become an oracle. Oh, certain early works on magical philosophy hint at the Ark of the Covenant, which are oracular in character because of specially prepared chambers in its interior. These, by their shape and arrangement, were so attuned to the vibrations of the invisible world that they caught and amplified the voices of the ages imprinted upon and internally existent in the substance of the astral light. Unskilled in these ancient subtleties of their profession, modern architects often create architectural absurdities which would cause their creators to blush with shame did they comprehend their actual symbolic import. Thus, phallic emblems are strewn in profusion among the adornments of banks, office buildings, and department stores. Christian churches also may be surmounted with Brahmin and Mohammedan domes, or be designed in a style suitable for a Jewish synagogue or a Greek temple to Pluto. Damn! These incongruities may be considered trivial in importance by the modern designer, but to the trained psychologist, the purpose for which a building was erected is frustrated in large measure by the presence of such architectural disconcordances. Vitruvius thus defines the principle of propriety as conceived and applied by Dionysians. Propriety is the perfection of style which comes when a work is authoritatively constructed on approved principles. It arises from prescription, Greek, some other Greek word, from usage, or from nature. From prescription in the case of hypothetical edifices open to the sky in honor of Jupiter, lightening the heaven, the sun, or the moon, for these are gods whose semblances and manifestations we behold before our very eyes in the sky when it is cloudless and bright. These temples of Minerva, Mars, and Hercules will be Doric, since the virile strength of these gods makes daintiness entirely inappropriate to their houses. In the temples of Venus, Flora, Proserpine, Springwater, and the nymphs, the Corinthian order will be found to have peculiar significance because these are delicate divinities, and so its rather slender outlines, its flowers, leaves, and ornamental volutes will lend propriety where it is due. The construction of temples of the Ionic order to Juno, Diana, Father Bacchus, and to other gods of that kind will be in keeping with the middle position which they hold, for the building of such will be an appropriate combination of the severity of the Doric and the delicacy of the Corinthian. In describing the societies of Ionian artificers, Joseph da Costa declares the Dionysiac rites to have been founded upon the science of astronomy, which by the initiates of this order are correlated to the builder's art. In various documents dealing with the origin of architecture are found hints to the effect that the great buildings erected by these initiated craftsmen were based upon geometrical patterns derived from the constellations. Thus, a temple might be planned according to the constellation of Pegasus, or a court of judgment modeled after the constellation of the scales. The Dionysians evolved a peculiar code by which they were able to communicate with one another in the dark, and both the symbols and the terminology of their guild were derived, in the main, from the elements of architecture. While stigmatized as pagans by reason of their philosophic principles, it is noteworthy that these Dionysiac craftsmen were almost universally employed in the erection of early Christian abbeys and cathedrals, whose stones even to this very day bear distinguishing marks and symbols cut into their surfaces by these illustrious builders. I'm rubbing my nose because it's fucking running, all right? Just wanted to let you know that. Snot. That's it. Not sending any fucking signals. I know how you people work. Fuck off. Among the ornate carvings upon the fronts of great churches of the old world are frequently found representations of compasses, squares, rules, mallets, and clusters of builders' tools skillfully incorporated into mural decorations, even placed in the heads of effigies of saints, prophets standing in exalted niches. A great mystery was contained in the ancient portals of the Cathedral of Notre Dame, which were destroyed during the French Revolution. For among their carvings were numerous Rosicrucian and Masonic emblems, according to their records preserved by alchemists who studied their bas reliefs, the secret processes for metallic transmutation was set forth in their grotesque yet most significant figures. The checkerboard floor upon which the modern Freemason Lodge stands is the old tracing board of the Dionysic architects, and while the modern organization is no longer limited to workmen's guilds, it still preserves in its symbols the metaphysical doctrines of the ancient society of which it is presumably the outgrowth. Man. See, I want to fucking comment on this shit so bad. So bad. But I also don't want to, because I just want to fucking read it, you know? You guys will understand this. Anyone who's fucking watching this, who's made it this far, who pigeon just might follow this shit. I don't know. I don't care. I don't give a fuck who watches, but see, I do this shit because I gain. There's the secret. There's the secret. The more I read, the more I know. The more I can see in the field. That's all it is, dude. I don't know shit. I don't know anything, dude. The more I know, the less I fucking know. But I read this stuff, man, and I fucking get that. Like, not this. This is a mark. This is a mark for me. Like this book, okay? I take everything I read at face value. Noise utterances in space. Good luck getting inside of my temple. That's all I gotta say. Because I set a lot of fucking traps. Anyways, this stuff is amazing. I mean, think about who this is. This is what's his goddamn name? Manly P. Hall. The fucking spokesman for Freemasons, dude. I mean, he's the fucking voice. All right? That's why this shit's important. You don't have to fucking believe it. You don't have to fucking believe anything. But realize that this guy who wrote this fucking book was not fucking around. If you don't know who he is, that's too fucking bad. You might want to do some homework. But Jesus Christ, dude. I think that's why I gotta have the other book. For anyone who's like, what the fuck is he doing? Because I don't ever do this. I'm streaming live. I don't know. Maybe I'll start doing it more often. I don't fucking know. I'll do whatever I want, dude. But I just wanted to kind of fucking fill people in. Forgot what the fuck I was doing. What was I at? Hackathorn? Anyways, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. None of it matters, dude, in the grand scheme. Where was I? Checkerboards and blowjobs? No. Yes. The ages will find a practical suggestion in the following statement by Charles W. Hecklethorne. Guess I'll take a fucking sip of my piss-warm coffee. Gotta get that. It keeps focusing. I don't know if I should fix it, fuck it, suck it. I don't care. But considering that Freemason is a tree, the roots of which spread through so many soils, it follows that traces thereof must be found in its fruit. That its language and ritual should retain much of the various sects of institutions it has passed through before arriving at their present state. And in Masonry, we meet with Indian, Egyptian, Jewish, and Christian ideas, terms, and symbols. See the secret societies of all ages and countries. The Roman Collegia of Skilled Architects was apparently a subdivision of the Greater Ionian body, the principles and organization being practically identical with the older Ionian institution. It has been suspected that the Dionysians also profoundly influenced early Islamic culture, for part of their symbolism found its way into the mysteries of the dervishes. At one point in time, the Dionysians referred to themselves as sons of Solomon, and one of the most important of their symbols was the Seal of Solomon, two interlaced triangles. This motif is frequently seen in conspicuous parts of the Mohammedan mosques. The Knights Templars, who were suspected of anything and everything, are believed to have contacted these Dionysic artificers and to have introduced many of their symbols and doctrines into medieval Europe. But Freemasonry most of all owes to its Dionysic cult the great mass of its symbols and the rituals which are related to the science of architecture. From these ancient and illustrious artisans, it also received the legacy of the unfinished temple of civilization. That vast and visible structure upon these initiated builders have labored continuously since the inception of their fraternity. This mighty edifice, which has fallen and been rebuilt time after time, whose foundations remain unmoved, is the true everlasting house of which the temple on the brow of Mount Moriah was but an impertinent symbol. Aside from the operative aspect of their order, the Dionysic architects had a speculative philosophic code. Human society they considered as a rough and untrue ashlar, but lately chiseled from the quarry of elemental nature. This crude block was the true object upon which these skilled craftsmen labored, polishing it, squaring it, and with the aid of fine carvings transforming it into a miracle of beauty. While mystics released their souls from the bondage of matter by meditation and philosophers found their keenest joy to the profundities of thought, these master workmen achieved liberation from the wheel of life and death by learning to swing their hammers with the same rhythm that moves the swirling forces of the cosmos. They venerated the deity under the guise of a great architect and master craftsman who was ever gouging rough ashlars from the fields of space and truing them into the universes. The Dionysians affirmed constructiveness to be the supreme expression of the soul, and attuning themselves with the ever-visible constructive natural processes going on around them, believed immortality could be achieved by thus becoming a part of the creative agencies of nature. Solomon, the personification of universal wisdom. The name Solomon may be divided into three syllables, Sol-O-Mun, symbolizing light, glory, and truth collectively and respectively. The temples of Solomon is therefore first of all the house of everlasting light, its earthly symbol being the temple of stone on the brow of Mount Moriah. According to the mystery teachings, there are three temples of Solomon, as there are three grand masters, three witnesses, and three tabernacles of the transfiguration. The first temple is the grand house of the universe, in the midst of which sits the sun Sol upon his golden throne. The 12 signs of the zodiac, as fellow craftsmen gather around their shining lord. Three lights, the stellar, the solar, and the lunar, illuminate this cosmic temple, accompanied by his retinue of planets, moons, and asteroids. This divine king, Sol-Amun, whose glory no earthly monarch shall ever equal, passes in stately pomp down the avenues of space. Whereas Chiram represents the active physical light of the sun, Sol-Amun signifies its invisible but all-powerful spiritual and intellectual effulgency. The second symbolic temple is the human body, the little house made in the image of the great universal house. Know ye not, asked the Apostle Paul, that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? Freemasonry within a temple of stone cannot be other than speculative, but Freemasonry within the living temple of the body is operative. The third symbolic temple of the solar house, an invisible structure, the comprehension of which is a supreme Freemasonic arcanum. The mystery of this intangible edifice is concealed under the allegory of the Soma Pushion, or wedding garment, described by St. Paul, the robes of glory of the high priest of Israel, the yellow robe of the Buddhist monk, and the robe of blue and gold, to which Albert Pike refers to his symbolism. The soul, it's kind of, never mind, not going to interrupt. You'll see if you're paying attention. The soul, constructed from the invisible fiery substance of flaming golden metal, is cast by the master workman Hiram Abiff into the mold of the clay. of clay, the physical body, and is called the molten sea. The temple of the human soul is built by three master masons personifying wisdom, love, and service, and when constructed according to the law of life, the Spirit of God dwells in the holy place thereof. The solar temple is the true everlasting house, and he who can raise or cast it is a master mason indeed. The best informed Masonic writers have realized that Solomon's temple is a representation in miniature of the universal temple. Concerning this point, A.E. Waite in a new encyclopedia of Freemasonry writes, it is a macroscopic in character, so that the temple is a symbol of the universe, a type of manifestation itself. Solomon, the spirit of the universal illumination, mental, spiritual, moral, and physical, is personified in the king of an earthly nation. While a great ruler by that name may have built a temple, he who considers the story solely from its historical angle will never clear away the rubbish that covers the secret vaults. The rubbish is interpolated matter in the form of superficial symbols, allegories, and degrees which have no legitimate part in the original Freemasonic mysteries. Concerning the loss of the true esoteric key to Masonic secrets, Albert Pike writes, no one journeys now from the high place of Carbone in the threshing floor of Omen the Jebusite, nor has seen his master clothed in blue and gold, nor our apprentice. Damn it, hold on. Damn it. These fucking old people. No one journeys now from the high place of Carbone to the threshing floor of Omen the Jebusite, nor has seen his master clothed in blue and gold, nor are apprentices and fellow crafts any longer paid at their respective columns, nor is the master's working tool the tracing board, nor does he use in his work chalk, charcoal, and the earthen vessel, nor does the apprentice, becoming a fellow craft, pass from the square to the compass, for the meaning of these phrases as symbols has long been lost. Well, isn't that fucking quaint? According to the ancient rabbins, Solomon was an initiate of the mystery schools, and the temple which he built was actually a house of initiation containing a mass of pagan philosophic and phallic emblems. The pomegranates, the palm-headed columns, the pillars before the door, the Babylonian cherubim, and the arrangement of the chambers and draperies all indicate the temple to have been patterned after the sanctuaries of Egypt and Atlantis. Isaac Meyer in the Kabbalah makes the following observation. The Pseudo-Clement of Rome writes, God made man male and female. The male is Christ, the female the church. The Kabbalists called the Holy Spirit the mother and the church of Israel the daughter. Solomon engraved on the walls of his temple likenesses of the male and female principles to what is that word? Undumbrate this mystery, such, it is said, were the figures of the cherubim. This was, however, not in obedience to the words of the Torah. They were symbolical of the upper, the spiritual, the former or maker, positive or male, and the lower, the passive, the negative or female, formed or made by the first. Damn. Let's keep going, though. Fuck it. Masonry came... Wait a minute. Okay. Formed or made by the first. Masonry came to northern Africa and Asia Minor from the lost continent of Atlantis, not under its present name, but rather under the general designation sun and fire worship. The ancient mysteries did not cease to exist when Christianity became the world's most powerful religion. Great Pan did not die. Freemasonry is the proof of his survival. The pre-Christian mysteries simply assumed the symbolism of the new faith, perpetuating through its emblems and allegories the same truths which had been the property of the wise since the beginning of the world. There is no true explanation, therefore, Christian symbols save that which is concealed within pagan philosophy. Without the mysterious keys carried by the hierophants of the Egyptian, Brahmin, and Persian cults, the gates of wisdom cannot be opened. Consider the reverent spirit, therefore, the sublime allegory of the temple and its builders, realizing that beneath its literal interpretation lies hidden a royal secret. According to the Talmudic legend, Solomon understood the mysteries of the Kabbalah. He was also an alchemist and a necromancer, being able to control the demons, and from them and other inhabitants of the invisible worlds, he secured much of his wisdom. In his translation of Clavicula Solomonicis of the Key of Solomon the King, a work presumably setting forth the magical secrets gathered by Solomon and used by him in the conjuration of spirits and which, according to Frank C. Higgins, contains many sidelights of Masonic initiatory rituals. S. L. McGregor Mathers recognizes the probability that Solomon was a magician in the fullest sense of that word. I see no reason to doubt, he affirms, the tradition which assigns the authorship of the Key of Solomon for, among other, Josephus, the Jewish historian, especially mentions the magical works attributed to the monarch. This is confirmed by many Eastern traditions, and his magical skills is frequently mentioned in the Arabian Nights. Concerning Solomon's supernatural powers, Josephus writes in his 8th book of the Antiquities of the Jews, "Now the sagacity and wisdom which God had bestowed on Solomon was so great that he exceedeth the ancients, insomuch that he was no way inferior to the Egyptians, who are said to have been beyond all men in understanding. God also enabled him to learn that skill which expelled demons, which is a science useful and sanative to him. He composed such incantations also by which distempers are all..." Shit, what is that word? That's weird. It might be a typo. He composed such incantations also by which distempers are all alleviated. Are alleviated? Looks like alleviated. Distempers are alleviated. Okay, sorry. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just reading. And he left behind him the manner of using exorcisms by which they drive away demons, so that they never return. And this method of cure is of great force unto this day. The medieval alchemists were convinced that King Solomon understood the secret processes of Hermes, by means of which it was possible to multiply metals. Dr. Backstrom writes that the universal script, Kiram, assisted King Solomon to build his temple because Solomon, being wise in the wisdom of alchemy, knew how to control this incorporeal essence, and setting it to work for him caused the invisible universe to supply him with vast amounts of gold and silver, which most people believed were mined by natural methods. The mysteries of the Islamic faith are now in the keeping of the dervishes, men who, renouncing worldliness, have withstood the test of 1,001 days of temptation. Jalaluddin, the great Persian Sufist poet and philosopher, is accredited with having founded the order of Mevlevi, or the dancing dervishes, whose movements exoterically signify the motions of the celestial bodies and esoterically resulted in the establishment of a rhythm which stimulates the centers of spiritual consciousness within the dancer's body. According to the mystical canon, there are always on earth a certain number of holy men who are admitted to intimate communion with the deity. The one who occupies the highest position among his contemporaries is called the axis or pole of his time. Subordinate to the pole are two holy beings who bear the title of the faithful ones and are assigned places on his right and left respectively. Below these are a quartet of intermediate ones, Evtad, and on successfully lower planes are 5 lights, Envar, and 7 very good, Akhyar. The next rank is filled by 40 absent ones, Rajel Agahib, I don't know what these fucking words are, also termed martyrs, Shudaba. When the axis quits this earthly existence, he is succeeded by the faithful one who has accompanied the place at his right hand. For 2, these holy men, who also bear the collective titles of Lords of Souls and Directors, is committed by a spiritual supremacy over mankind, far exceeding the temporal authority of earthly rulers. See Mysticism and Magic in Turkey by L.M.J. Garnett. The Axis is a mysterious individual who, unknown and unsuspected, mingles with mankind, and who, according to tradition, has his favorite seat upon the roof of the Kaaba. J.P. Brown. in The Dervishes gives a description of these master souls. I tell you, I'll tell you, heavy shit, heavy shit. Is this still even going out? Welcome. All right. You're welcome. Freemasonry's priceless heritage. The sanctum sanctorum of Freemasonry is ornamented with the Gnostic jewels of 1,000 ages. Its rituals ring with the divinely inspired words and of seers and sages. 800 religions have brought their gifts of wisdom to its altar. Arts and sciences unnumbered have contributed to its symbolism. Freemasonry is a worldwide university teaching the liberal arts and sciences of the soul to all who will hearken to its words. Its chairs are seats of learning, and its pillars uphold an arch of universal education. Its trestle boards are inscribed with the eternal verities of all ages, and upon those who comprehend its sacred depths has dawned the realization that within the Freemasonic mysteries lie hidden the long-lost arcana sought by all peoples since the genesis of human reason. The philosophic power of Freemasonry lies in its symbols, its priceless heritage from the mystery schools of antiquity. In a letter to Robert Freck Gould, Albert Pike writes, "It began to shape itself to my intellectual vision into something more imposing and majestic, solemnly mysterious and grand. It seems to me like the pyramids in their loneliness, in whose yet undiscovered chambers may be hidden, for the enlightenment of coming generations, the sacred books of the Egyptians, so long lost to the world, like the Sphinx half buried in the desert, in its symbolism, which and its spirits of brotherhood are its essence. Freemasonry is more ancient than any of the world's living religions. It has the symbols and doctrines which, older than himself, Zarathustra inculcated, and it seemed to me a spectacle sublime yet pitiful, the ancient faith of our ancestors holding out to the world its symbols once so eloquent and mutely and in vain asking for an interpreter. And so I came at last to see that the true greatness and majesty of Freemasonry consisted in its proprietorship of that and its other symbols, and that its symbolism is its soul. Though the temples of Thebes and Karnak be now just majestic heaps of broken and time-battered stone, the spirit of Egyptian philosophy still marches triumphant through the centuries. Though the rock-hewn sanctuaries of the ancient Brahmins be now deserted and their carvings crumbled into dust, still the wisdom of the Vedas endures. Though the oracles be silenced and the house of the mysteries be now but rows of ghostly columns, it still shines the spiritual glory of Hellas with luster undiminished. Though Zoroaster, Hermes, Pythagoras, Plato, and Aristotle are now but dim memories in a world once rocked by the transcendency of their intellectual genius, still, in the mystic temple of Freemasonry, these god-men live again in their words and symbols, and the candidate passing through the initiation feels himself face to face with these illumined hierophants of days long lost. Fuck! Oh. So hit the